Hello, everyone, and welcome to the University of Texas at Arlington's Cooperating Teacher Training for our clinical teaching teacher candidates here with the College of Education. We represent the Office of Student Services. Thank you for joining us and for serving as a cooperating teacher. Your role is invaluable to the development and preparation of the next generation of teachers, and we are immensely grateful for your service. I am Brenda Harris, Director for the Office of Student Services. Also joining us today for our training are other Student Services team members who will introduce themselves later in the presentation. Today, we would like to walk you through your role as a cooperating teacher and review activities you will encounter during the candidate's clinical teaching. As we get started, we would like to acknowledge the foundation on which this training is based. The structure of our teacher education preparation program is designed to meet the compliance-driven requirements and components of the various entities listed here. UTA's College of Education mentor model functions on a three-tiered support system while candidates are in the field developing their educator skills. You, the cooperating teacher, along with the UTA field supervisor, play the most critical roles in a candidate's on-the-job training. Before we discuss the role of the field supervisor, we will spend time unpacking the cooperating teacher's role.
Thank you, Brenda Harris. I am Brenda Miller, Clinical Placement and Experience Coordinator, and I'll be walking you through the roles and responsibilities of the cooperating teacher. The cooperating teacher has an incredible impact on the final phase of a candidate's field experience. In the Cooperating Teacher Handbook, which will be emailed to you and can be accessed on UTA's College of Education website, you will find narrative that describes the cooperating teacher's role, which includes assisting the candidate in becoming an effective first-year teacher by providing clear, honest feedback, motivating and encouraging the candidate, positively impacting the candidate's learning, emphasizing the conceptual application of ideas, modeling best practices, suggesting areas for improvement, and mentoring and establishing a relationship of trust and communication as you support the candidate in putting all the theory he or she has learned into practice. Your fulfilling or not fulfilling these roles can make or break the candidate's clinical teaching experience. Thank you for giving the clinical teacher the opportunity to get to know you, your team, your teaching philosophy, helping the candidate get to know your classroom and your students, guiding the candidate with navigating the campus and knowing and abiding by school rules, and making sure you designate an area where the candidate can work and store belongings or items needed for teaching. Now I'm going to hand over the presentation to Ms. Candace Passon to discuss more about the cooperating teacher.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. I am Candace Passon, the administrative assistant. As Ms. Miller mentioned, I will be discussing your cooperating teacher's responsibilities. Some responsibilities you have as a cooperating teacher are assessing the candidate's speech competency, completing a formal observation of the candidate, and reporting absences. UTA provides the speech competency form and the teacher observation report to support your mentorship and guide your dialogue with the clinical teacher. These forms will be emailed to you and can be provided to you by the candidate. Thank you in advance for using these tools in the manner they were intended. They are T-test aligned and compliance-driven documents that provide the evidence the state of Texas requires when certifying its teachers. The field office will remind you approximately 1 week prior to the dates these assessments are due, and the clinical teacher will likely remind you as well. Additionally, part of your responsibilities involves reporting any absences of your clinical teaching candidate through a Microsoft form. The link will be shared with you. Thank you for consistently completing the Microsoft form whenever your clinical teacher informs you of their absence. Please note, all early departures and late arrivals are considered a full day absence and must be reported. Now, this is the speech competency form. You will use the speech competency in instructional settings as a guide to giving the candidate feedback on how they communicate with students, administrators, parents, and any other individuals they interact with while they are in their placement. Feedback is required and must provide an explanation of the ranking that you gave the candidate. This can be detailed or brief. For example, Molly is great. Why is she great? Please elaborate your reasoning on your rankings. All areas in red must be completed and all signatures must be handwritten or digitally signed with a timestamp and password protected. A link to a 5-minute tutorial on how to create your digital signature will be shared with you in your welcome email. When providing your required feedback, please ensure that it is effective. For example, in the previous slide, I stated Molly is great, but why? The effective feedback on this slide provides a concise explanation about the candidate, whereas the ineffective feedback doesn't provide any explanation and is unprofessionally written. Now, we will move on to the teacher observation report, which is also known as the tour. The teacher observation report is aligned with the T-test. You will construct a formal observation and give candidate feedback in 4 domains: planning, instruction, learning environment, and professional practices and responsibilities. All boxes in white are set to auto-populate. Please be sure you are listing your TEAID number and marking the Cooperating Teacher button on the bottom of page 1, indicating that you are completing this observation of the candidate. On this page of the Teacher Observation Report, please summarize the candidate's strengths, challenges you witnessed during the lesson, and recommendations you have to offer on the left-hand side of the page. After you discuss your report with the candidate, make sure each of you sign the document. Remember, all signatures must be digitally signed with a timestamp or handwritten. Signatures cannot be typed. For the report you complete, you will only need to initial on the left-hand side of the top set of 2 boxes. Here you are initialing that the candidate either is or is not making progress toward being recommended for certification. The green highlight means yes, and the red highlight means no. When the field supervisor, who uses the exact same document to observe the candidate, visits, you will be asked to recommend or withhold your recommendation of the candidate for certification by the field supervisor in the last set of boxes. Please make sure you are initialing only one yes or no in each of the 2 sections. So, what's wrong with this example? The cooperating teacher initialed that the clinical teacher has and has not made sufficient progress to be on track and recommended for teacher certification. Only one box needs to be initialed, not both. Please be sure to read where you are initialing. And again, initials and signatures must be handwritten or digitally signed. It cannot be typed. Also, the right column is not completed because that is where the field supervisor initials. On the cooperating teacher observation report, the field supervisor does not need to sign or initial since they sign an initial on their own tour. Now we will discuss VIP dates for you as the cooperating teacher and the clinical teaching candidate. The dates provided here represent the due dates in the Canvas portfolio, with the exception of the first one listed, for clinical teaching candidates in Placement 1. Placement 1 dates are from the start of the ISD through October 4th. The dates listed under the second bullet point are for documentation that you, as the cooperating teacher, will complete and share with the candidate to upload. These deadlines are non-negotiable, and failure to complete and upload the documentation by the specified date will result in disciplinary action for the clinical teacher. Thank you for planning how to accomplish these tasks early with your clinical teacher and committing to the due dates, as it will contribute to setting the clinical teacher up for success. The dates provided here represent the due dates in the Canvas portfolio, again with the exception of the first one listed, for clinical teaching candidates in Placement 2. Placement 2 dates are from October 7th through December 6th. Again, the dates listed on the third and fourth bullet point are for the documentation that you will be completing and sharing with the candidate. Remember, the deadlines are non-negotiable, and there will be disciplinary action for the clinical teacher if it is not uploaded by that designated date. Now, Ms. Harris will discuss observation VIP notes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Passon. Some important notes regarding observations to keep in mind as you work with the clinical teachers are listed here. UTA adheres to your suggestions for planning formal observations. The field supervisor visit is planned with your specific needs and class demands in mind. Please do not observe your clinical teacher the same day as the field supervisor. These important observation notes conclude our discussion of your one-time responsibilities, which once again include two items: completing the speech competency form and completing the teacher observation report. Now we'll move to the gradual release model. The cooperating teacher will gradually release teaching responsibilities to the clinical teacher. Minimally, the clinical teacher is expected to take over teaching, including all the classroom responsibilities of a teacher for a 2-week period. If you are comfortable with your clinical teacher's performance, you may allow the clinical teacher to teach for a longer period of time. Now, Ms. Miller will discuss the clinical teacher responsibilities.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harris. Now we will take a few minutes and focus on the center around which our three-tiered system supports the clinical teacher and the professional standards you should expect from UTA's teacher candidates. Because you have exhibited these 7 standards, your administrators recommended you as a cooperating teacher. Thank you for mentoring the clinical teacher assigned to you so that they too can demonstrate excellence in teaching, apply research-based pedagogy, create a learner-centered environment, use instructional technology, exhibit a commitment to diversity, demonstrate collaborate with colleagues, parents, and the community, and incorporate learners' personal, cultural, and community knowledge into the learning process. You should expect candidates to dress and act in a professional manner, to commit to full partnership with the cooperating teacher, learn and follow the rules and regulations of the school, actively participate in the classroom, follow the cooperating teacher's schedule throughout the clinical teaching placement, including attending school the same hours required for the cooperating teacher, attending professional meetings, including faculty meetings, parent conferences, PTA meetings and workshops, and taking part in extracurricular activities as appropriate. Candidates are under your tutelage so they can learn the daily responsibilities of a teacher. As Brenda Harris has stated, they should gradually take on the responsibilities for the class and teach full time for at least 2 weeks in each placement. Expect candidates to create and submit lesson plans 48 to 72 hours in advance of the lesson being taught, which allows for feedback from both you and the field supervisor. And now Ms. Harris will discuss the role and responsibilities of UTA's field supervisors.
The UTA field supervisor will work with you most closely and with your candidate throughout the clinical teaching semester. The field supervisor is a professional educator who serves as a faculty member for the University of Texas at Arlington and is the person who will communicate issues to the EPP should any concerns arise. The UTA field supervisor is required to complete 3 to 5 observations throughout the candidate's clinical. Field supervisors will need to observe candidates teaching lessons spanning 45 minutes or longer. Please discuss with your field supervisor if you are expected to be present during all or part of the field supervisor's formal observations and have prepared a private place for the field supervisor and the candidate to meet for their post-conference, which could last up to an hour. Thank you in advance for planning to teach the classes that follow the field supervisor's observations. Within a week of their formal observations, field supervisors will email cooperating teachers, candidates, and principals their completed written feedback. Again, as one of the vital tiers of support for our clinical teachers, the field supervisor will confer with you and the candidate throughout the semester and is responsible for interceding between the on the job field experience and the UTA's College of Education. So let's discuss communication and intervention within UTA's three-tiered support structure so that you understand how information regarding the clinical teacher is to be shared with the UTA's College of Education. Most of our teacher candidates prove to be competent and trainable. However, on rare occasions, a clinical teacher may struggle in the classroom. It is critical for you to document any teacher candidate concerns and inform the field supervisor of your concerns early. In a few moments, we will discuss initiating action plans for candidates struggling with professional responsibilities, intervention plans for candidates struggling with pedagogy, and the timelines for initiating those plans. If you notice any concerns, we ask you to contact the field supervisor within the first 2 weeks regarding professional or pedagogical issues. You are free to implement your own intervention or collaborate with the field supervisor to do so. Please make sure the field supervisor has a copy of all documentation and plans. By the end of the 4th week, please make sure you have communicated to the field supervisor any clinical teacher who may need extra support. The field supervisor will then notify us and act as the moderator between UTA, you, and the candidate. The field supervisor is responsible for notifying the field office of any intervention plans and submitting your evidence of the implemented action plan. After all intervention procedures have been followed, if you are not comfortable recommending the candidate, you may withhold your recommendation and we will support withholding your recommendation. Again, we are pleased to say that most of our candidates will not need extra support or intervention. Thank you, though, for your willingness to address any concerns procedurally. Thank you for attending the cooperating teacher training. This does bring us to the end of our training. If you have any questions, you may contact our office at the email address located on the screen. You are now able to complete the quiz associated with the cooperating teacher training. The quiz, which was included in your cooperating teacher UTA welcome email, is the College of Education's means for providing evidence of training attendance. Again, Ms. Brenda Miller, Ms. Candace Passon, and I appreciate your service as cooperating teachers and assisting our students here at the University of Texas at Arlington College of Education. Thank you all.